Hello students, welcome to another class. Today, we shall be looking at the predisposing factors and transmission of HIV. The predisposing factors. What are some of the things that make people to contract HIV? There are several risk groups. If you belong to this risk group, you want to think twice. 1. Homosexual men. The second group, homophiliacs. The third group are the injection drug users. There are several possible modes of HIV transmission, so that depending on the risk group that one belongs to, transmission is very, very possible. We have HIV-1 and HIV-2 that have basically 3 modes or routes of transmission. The first is the sexual transmission. The second is the through blood transfusion or blood product transfusion. You hear of immunomodulants. During the time that people had Ebola in Sierra Leone, Guinea, that was coming to Nigeria, 2015 or thereabouts. A lot of people there wasn't any cure or treatment for Ebola. So they were using blood products to treat people. As a result, that's just to tell you that people can be infected through that method. So you have blood transfusion and transfusion of blood products. Also, for mother to child transmission occurs through semen, vaginal fluids, blood, and breast milk. These are methods through which a mother can transmit to the child. The mother can get it from semen. The child can get it even through breast milk. During birth, it's very, very possible because there is blood that contaminates the area and the child will have some lacerations in the process and then can be transmitted. HIV can be transmitted by vaginal, by anal, or oral means. During our sexually transmitted infection class, we talked about how there has been a change in sexual orientation. Sexually transmitted infections are becoming very, very common now because of the number of sexual partners that people are having and also the infectiousness of the infected individuals. You talk of infectiousness when people have high viral load. The virus circulates in the system more likely. The virus that circulates in the system is more likely to have more chances of infecting people compared to people that have a lower viral load. Globally, 90% of the cases of HIV is acquired sexually. In North America and Western Europe, homosexual anal intercourse was initially the highest mode of transmission of HIV. But now that we know that many people their sexual orientation is heterosexual, it's a significant problem in many parts. In Africa, the male to female ratio of HIV is approximately 1:1, suggesting that the main mode of transmission in Africa is heterosexual. So it has been postulated that the efficiency of the male to female transmission is higher than for female to male transmission. So I take it again. It has been said that the efficiency of male to female transmission, male to female, is higher than female to male. So I leave us to think, what is happening? Why is it that people are saying male to female transmission is higher than female to male, the other way around? What do we think is responsible for it? I'm sure that some people will say that males are more promiscuous than females. I know that is what you are thinking in your mind. That made some people to think that this is what is happening in Africa. Anyway, somebody will have to do a project to prove it. But data has shown that some people become infected just with one single exposure, while others have escaped infection after prolonged unprotected sexual intercourse with HIV people. One president in one country in Africa. He wanted to contest for the presidency, and they told him, you are having intercourse with HIV-infected people. I don't want to mention the country now. And he said, yes, what is your business? If I have intercourse with HIV people, are they not human beings? So there are people with the mindset that it doesn't matter. After all, HIV does not show on the face. So when this thing is happening, people do not know. They are highly exposed, uninfected individuals. These people are highly exposed, but they are not infected. And that leads to some questions. What exactly is happening? What exactly is happening to these people? They are infected, they are exposed, but they are not infected. Okay? Again, there are host factors that are responsible for some of these things. Host factors. Some people in one part of Africa, they have HIV, but it doesn't really progress to AIDS. And so the question is, what exactly is protecting these people? What exactly is protecting these people? So factors that may also affect the rate of heterosexual transmission. One of the factors is the duration of infection. Another factor is the genetic susceptibility of the host. How susceptible is the host to HIV? Another problem is the infecting the viral load and the virulence of the particular HIV strain. HIV strains, like you already know, there are different types of HIV strains. Yes, we have two types, HIV1, HIV2. But within the HIV1 and HIV2, there are different strains. So these strains, there are different levels of virulence that they have. Among the key factors, 3 things are very important. The first is the host's infectiousness. That is the ability of the host to infect. The next thing is the viral infectivity and virulence. And that is the ability of the virus to infect. So this is host infectiousness, viral infectivity, and then the host susceptibility. That is the ability of an individual to come down. Let's look at the host infectiousness. The host infectiousness is the ability of an individual to transmit infection to an uninfected individual. One thing that we know that is critical for the host is the stage of the infection. Initially, you hear the mantra, HIV does not know the show for face. Why is that so? Because even the antibodies have not been developed. If somebody was infected yesterday night, if you check today, you will not see the antibodies to that virus. That is why antibody test, there's a window period. When that period has passed, then you can check to see if antibodies have been, produced against the virus. Individuals that are known to be more infectious later in the stage of the infection, when they are either at the point called the AIDS stage, or when they are progressing, the more progressed infection before the AIDS. That's why you say HIV/AIDS, because you are not sure when the individual has AIDS, but you know that this HIV is advancing to a point where the clinical signs are beginning to show. Clinical signs of AIDS. You see somebody losing weight progressively. It looks like a broom. You don't need anybody to tell you that this person, there's something wrong. But one thing that is important, one factor that influences the host infectiousness is the viral load. The viral load enhances chances of transmitting the virus. Once there's a high viral load, meaning the virus is plenty, chances are that it can easily transmit. There's what we call the CD4 cells. CD4 cells are T helper cells. They play a central role in the host's immune defense system. That way, they are able to mount up immunity against the virus. When the CD4 count is low, then it means the cells no longer have the ability to mount up good cellular response. And that means low immunity. And low immunity also translates to higher infectiousness. What about the mode by which a person acquires the infection? Mode by which an individual acquires the infection. Can you compare somebody who took injection drugs, IV, and compare somebody who got it through a HIV seropositive partner? Then we talk about having vaginal sex during menstruation. Menstruation may increase the likelihood of transmitting HIV to the male sexual partners, because then there's a lot of blood around, and the presence of a high CD4 bearing cells within the vaginal wall during the period implies that there are more infected cells, and this will increase the chances of transmission.